The chamber stretched far beyond what human eyes could comfortably perceive. Thousands of alien representatives sat in circular rows that climbed toward a ceiling lost in artificial mist. Hyunwoo stood alone at the center, his dark suit a small patch of earth color amid the rainbow of alien forms. His throat felt dry, but he kept his face calm. Behind him, projected on screens that wrapped around the entire chamber, evidence of human conflicts played on repeat. Admiral Ji-won watched from the visitors' gallery, her military uniform crisp and her jaw tight. She wanted to march down there and stand beside Hyunwoo, but protocol forbade it. Only the appointed ambassador could speak. She gripped the railing hard enough that her knuckles went white. The council chairman, a being called Talaran, rose from his seat. His scaled body reflected the chamber lights in patterns of green and gold. When he spoke, translation devices carried his words to every species present. Ambassador Hyunwoo of Earth, this council has reviewed the charges. Your species has engaged in unprovoked warfare with the Draxian Empire. You violated the territory of the Voloshan Collective. You refused mediation at every turn. Hyunwoo stepped forward. Chairman, we defended ourselves. The Draxians attacked our colony on New Sol without warning. They killed 40,000 civilians. We responded with appropriate force. An insectoid representative named Velmora clicked her mandibles. Appropriate? You destroyed 3 of their worlds. Military installations, Hyunwoo said firmly. We evacuated civilian populations first. We gave them time to leave. The Draxians showed us no such mercy. Talaran raised a clawed hand. The Draxians claim you fired first. They say your colony was built on their ancestral grounds. Ancestral grounds they abandoned 5,000 years ago, Hyunwoo countered. By galactic law, after 2,000 years, unclaimed systems are open for settlement. We followed every regulation. A blob-like creature from the left side of the chamber gurgled loudly. Its translator said, humans always find loopholes, always pushing boundaries, always aggressive. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Hyunwoo felt the mood turning. These beings had already decided. This trial was just theater. Ji-won saw it too. She touched her communication device and whispered, Hyunwoo, they're not listening. Request a recess. Buy us time, but Hyunwoo shook his head slightly. He knew there was no more time to buy. Talaran continued. In the past century alone, humanity has been involved in 17 conflicts. 17! No other species in Council history has such a record. Because no other species expands as fast as we do, Hyunwoo said. We have a population of 80 billion across 40 systems. We need space. We need resources. We take nothing that isn't freely available or legally purchased. Velmora's wings buzzed. You breed too fast. You consume too much. You are a plague that will eventually threaten us all. The chamber erupted in voices, some agreeing, others shouting objections. Hyunwoo noticed that only a handful of species seemed sympathetic to humanity. The majority looked at him with fear or disgust. Talaran struck a resonating gong that silenced the chamber. Order. We will proceed to the vote. He looked down at Hyunwoo with something that might have been regret. Ambassador, do you have final words? Hyunwoo took a breath. Yes, humanity has made mistakes. We're young compared to most of you. We're still learning. But we've also saved lives. We shared our medical technology freely. We helped rebuild the Korath worlds after their sun flared. We've been good neighbors to those who treated us with respect. He looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes and eye analogs as he could. If you do this, if you cast us out, you'll regret it. Not because we'll seek revenge, but because you'll have lost allies who would have stood with you when it mattered most. The chamber fell silent. Then Talaran said, Cast your votes. The process took less than a minute. Holographic results appeared in the air above the chairman. 847 votes, not a single one in humanity's favor. Ji-won closed her eyes. She'd expected this, but seeing it still felt like a punch to the gut. Talaran's voice carried weight now, official and final. By unanimous decision, humanity is hereby banished from galactic space. You have 30 galactic cycles to withdraw all personnel, ships, and installations to your home system. A quantum barrier will be erected around Sol to contain your expansion. You are forbidden from leaving that boundary under penalty of total war. Hyunwoo stood silent for a moment. Then he straightened his shoulders. Understood. Humanity will comply. He turned to leave, then paused. But remember this day, Chairman. Remember that you chose fear over friendship. As Hyunwoo walked toward the exit, Jiwon met him at the gallery door. They said nothing, just walked together through corridors that suddenly felt hostile. Alien beings stepped aside as they passed, some with satisfaction, others with what might have been shame. Outside, their shuttle waited. As they lifted off from the council station, Jiwon pulled up tactical displays. Our fleets are already withdrawing. The colonial evacuation started the moment the vote began. We knew. How long until everyone's back in Seoul? Hyunwoo asked. 20 cycles. We're not going to use all 30. The sooner we're out, the sooner we can begin. Begin what? Jiwon smiled, but there was no humor in it. Surviving, adapting, becoming something they can't ignore. They watched through the viewport as the council station shrank behind them. Ahead, their battle group waited, dozens of ships ready to escort them home. Beyond that, somewhere in the vast dark, Earth waited. 3 weeks later, Jiwon stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Indomitable, positioned at the edge of Sol system. Every human ship, every colonist, every soldier had returned. The outer systems felt empty without the bustling traffic of galactic trade ships and alien visitors. Then space itself began to shimmer. The quantum barrier, as promised, came to life. It started as a faint distortion, then grew brighter. Colors that didn't exist in normal space rippled across the sky. When it stabilized, it looked like a massive soap bubble surrounding their entire star system. One of Jiwon's officers, a young woman named Hae-sun, checked her instruments. Admiral, we're sealed in. No communications in or out. No ships can pass either way. Jiwon nodded slowly. Then we're truly alone now. She looked at her crew. Young faces, determined faces, some angry, some scared. Send a message to all ships and all colonies. Tell them this. We're going into the dark. The galaxy has locked us away. Fine, let them have their peace. But when the door opens again, whether they open it or we break it down, they'll find we used this time well. Humanity doesn't quit. Humanity adapts. The crew straightened in their seats. Hae-sun smiled and began transmitting the message. Outside, the barrier pulsed with energy, and beyond it, the stars of the galaxy shone on, indifferent to the fate of one species locked away in the dark. 50 years had passed since the barrier went up. An entire generation had been born, grown, and started families without ever seeing an alien face except in history books. The Sol system had changed in ways that would have shocked the old galactic community. Dawn sat in her laboratory on Titan, surrounded by holographic displays that showed impossible equations. She was 53 now, though anti-aging treatments kept her looking 30. Her team of 200 scientists worked around the clock in the facility carved deep into the moon's ice. They were the best humanity had, and they'd just solved another problem the galaxy said was impossible. Run it again, she told her assistant, Boram, a young man who barely remembered the time before the barrier. I want to be sure. The simulation played out in 3 dimensions above their heads. Nanomachines assembled themselves from base elements, forming complex structures in seconds. They could repair damaged tissue, construct buildings, even replicate themselves when given raw materials. Boram grinned. Doctor, it works. The self-replication is stable. We can scale this up. Dawn allowed herself a small smile. Contact the construction yards on Europa. Tell them we're ready for implementation. In orbit around Jupiter, young me oversaw one of humanity's greatest achievements. The governor of the outer colonies walked through the command center of Station Unity, a structure so massive it had its own gravity generators. Through the windows, she could see the rings of construction platforms that stretched for thousands of kilometers. Governor, the latest population reports, her aide said. Handing her a data pad, young me scanned the numbers. 40 million in the Jupiter system alone. Mars has 60 million now. Venus colonies just hit 20 million. She shook her head in wonder. Before the exile, we had 80 billion across 40 star systems. Now we have 120 billion in one system. We're getting crowded, the aide observed. No, young me said. We're getting efficient. Every moon, every asteroid, every available space is being used. We're learning to build dense, sustainable habitats. When we finally break out of here, we'll know how to colonize anything. In the military training grounds on Mars, Commander Tae-yang watched young pilots run simulations. He was 60 now, gray at the temples, but his eyes still sharp. The young man who caught his attention was named Jae-hyun, 20 years old and one of the best pilots he'd ever seen. Again, Tae-yang ordered as Jae-hyun's simulation ended. You won, but you lost 3 wingmen, unacceptable. Jae-hyun climbed out of the simulator pod, sweating. Sir, the enemy formation was too tight. I couldn't break through without casualties. Then don't break through, Taeyang said. What's the first rule? Humans don't fight fair, Jae-hyun recited. Exactly. You don't ram into enemy strength. You feint, you mislead, you make them think you're attacking from one direction while your real strike comes from another. We're developing tactics the galaxy has never seen because we're not constrained by their rules anymore. Use that, Jae-hyun nodded and climbed back into the pod. This time his approach was different. His squadron scattered, appearing to retreat. The simulated enemy pursued, and when they were spread out, Jae-hyun's forces struck from unexpected angles. Victory, with 0 losses. Taeyang smiled. Better. You're learning. The military had changed in 50 years. Gone were the traditional formations and predictable strategies the galaxy expected. Humanity had studied every war, every conflict in history, and synthesized something new. They trained for asymmetric warfare, for guerrilla tactics in space, for turning enemy advantages against them. The doctrine was simple: survive first, fight smart always. Back in Dayun's lab, another breakthrough was unfolding. Her team had been working on quantum computing far beyond what the Council species had achieved. Without access to alien technology, they'd been forced to innovate from scratch. Doctor, look at this, Boram said, pulling up a new display. We've achieved quantum entanglement across the entire system. Instant communication with 0 lag. Daun's eyes widened. That means every ship, every station, every colony can coordinate in real time. Do you understand what this means for fleet operations? We'll move like a single organism, Boram said, catching her excitement. While enemies deal with light-speed delays in their communications, we'll be acting in perfect sync. Dawn immediately opened a channel to military command. I need to speak with Admiral Ji-won. The Admiral appeared on screen, older now but still commanding. Dr. Daun. Good news, I hope? Potentially war-winning news, Daun said. We've cracked system-wide quantum entanglement. I'm sending the specifications now. If we can install these on our ships, we'll have a coordinated advantage no one else can match. Ji-won finished. How soon can we deploy? Give me 6 months to build the first production models. You have 4 months, Ji-won said. We're accelerating all development timelines. I'll explain why in person. Come to Earth. 2 weeks later, Dayun stood in a secure bunker beneath Geneva. Around the table sat Earth's top leadership. Admiral Ji-won, Governor Young-mi, Commander Taeyang, and a dozen others. Prime Minister Kyung-soo, a woman in her 70s who'd led Earth for the past decade, addressed them. We've kept this secret for the past 5 years, but you need to know. Our probes have found a way through the barrier. The room erupted in questions. Kyung-soo raised her hand for silence. Not for ships, not yet, but for small, stealthy probes that can slip through the quantum fluctuations. We've been monitoring galactic communications. Ji-won activated a holographic display. The news is not good. The galaxy is at war. 3 years ago, something called the Voidborn appeared. Machine intelligence, apparently. They're consuming entire systems. The Council has lost 20% of its territory. Why don't they just use their superior numbers? Young-mi asked. Because they're losing, Taeyang said, studying the tactical data. Look at these battle reports. They fight in traditional formations. They follow predictable patterns. The Voidborn adapt quickly and the Council species don't. They've grown soft, Ji-won added. 50 years ago they had us as a common enemy. That kept them sharp. Without us, old rivalries resurfaced. Their military cooperation fell apart, and now they're facing an existential threat they're not prepared for. Kyung-soo looked at each face around the table. 2 weeks ago we detected a transmission aimed at the Sol barrier. It was a message from the Council. They're asking for help. The room fell silent. Daeun finally spoke. What do they offer in return? Nothing specific, Kyung-soo said. Just a plea. They're desperate. Good, Taeyang said coldly. Let them beg. But Jae-hyun, attending as the representative of the new generation, stood up. With respect, Commander, my generation has only heard stories of the Council. We didn't live through the banishment. But we've been training our whole lives. If there are people dying out there, don't we have an obligation to help? They left us to die, Ji-won said quietly. They locked us in here and forgot about us. But we didn't die, Jae-hyun said. We thrived. Maybe that means we're strong enough to be better than they were. The debate lasted hours. Eventually, Kyung-soo called for a vote. The decision would be made by Earth's parliament, but she wanted to know where her advisors stood. The vote was split exactly down the middle. Then we wait, Kyung-soo decided. We continue monitoring. We continue advancing, and if the situation becomes truly dire, we'll decide then. But hear me, all of you. If we do help them, it won't be as the species they banished. It will be as the species we've become, and they will know exactly what they threw away. Outside the bunker, Da-eun stood with Jae-hyun looking up at the night sky. The barrier was invisible from Earth's surface, but they both knew it was there. Do you think we'll go back? Jae-hyun asked. Yes, Da-eun said. The question is when and on what terms. I hope it's soon, the young pilot said. I want to see what's out there. I want to test myself against something real. Da-eun smiled sadly. Be careful what you wish for. War isn't a simulation. But you're right about one thing. We can't hide in here forever. Eventually, we'll have to face the galaxy again. And when we do, they'll see just how much we've changed. The Galactic Council chamber looked different now. Where once thousands of representatives had gathered, now barely 300 remained. Kalthos, the new council chairman, stood at the podium where Talaran had once presided. Talaran's species was extinct now, their homeworlds consumed by the Voidborn 3 months ago. Kalthos was a four-armed being with crystalline skin that normally glowed with inner light. Today that light was dim. We have lost Sector 447, he announced. The Velocian Collective is no more. Their last transmission confirmed the Voidborn consumed their central worlds. The chamber, once filled with voices, remained silent. Fear had replaced the arrogance that had characterized the council for millennia. Military Commander Siravan stood to report. She was a tall, insectoid warrior, whose species had once been considered the council's finest soldiers. My fleets engaged the Voidborn at Kelvin Prime as ordered. We lost. She paused, mandibles clicking in distress. We lost everything. 3,000 ships destroyed in 4 hours. The Voidborn are adapting faster than we can counter them. How is that possible? Kalthos demanded. You had numerical superiority. They analyze our tactics in real time, Siravan explained. Every formation we use, they counter within minutes. Every weapon frequency we employ, they adapt shields to deflect. They're not just machines. They're learning machines, and they learn faster than we can innovate. A blob-like representative oozed forward. Perhaps if we hadn't exiled the humans, we'd have fresh tactical perspectives. They were unpredictable fighters. Kalthos bristled. The humans were a threat. They were aggressive and dangerous.
And now we face something truly dangerous, the blob replied.
And we have no one aggressive enough to fight it. Deep in Sol system on Station Unity, Hyjin monitored the secret probes that had been observing galactic space. She was in her 30s now, a skilled intelligence officer who'd spent years learning to interpret alien communications. What she was seeing made her blood run cold. Governor Young-mi, you need to see this, she called out. Young-mi arrived within minutes, accompanied by Admiral Jiwon, who happened to be visiting. They watched as Hyjin played intercepted transmissions. Battle footage showed massive black ships that seemed to absorb light itself. They moved with frightening coordination, overwhelming council fleets through sheer adaptive capability. These are the Voidborn, Hyjin explained. They appeared 5 years ago from dark space beyond the galactic rim. No one knows where they came from or what they want. They simply consume. They break down matter at the molecular level and use it to build more of themselves. Jiwon studied the tactical displays. Show me the council's response patterns. Hyjin pulled up multiple battle recordings. Jiwon watched in silence, then shook her head. They're fighting the same way they did 50 years ago. Traditional formations. Predictable maneuvers. They haven't adapted at all. They don't know how. Young-mi said quietly. They've had peace for so long, they've forgotten how to truly fight. Meanwhile, the Voidborn adapt with every engagement, Jiwon observed. This is what happens when one side evolves and the other stagnates. Hyjin brought up new data. It gets worse. The council is fracturing. Species are withdrawing their forces to defend their own territories. The Unified Fleet Command is collapsing. How long before the Voidborn reach Council's central space? Young-mi asked. At current rates, 6 months. Maybe less if internal conflicts slow the defense. Jiwon leaned back thinking. And how long before they reach the Sol barrier? Hyjin hesitated. Unknown. But if they consume the entire galaxy, we're just a barrier away from them. And Admiral, I don't know if the barrier will stop them. It was designed to contain us, not repel an external invasion. 2 months later, The situation had deteriorated further. Kalthos stood alone in his private chambers, watching star charts that showed the Voidborn advance in red. Nearly 40% of Council space was gone. Entire civilizations erased. Trillions of lives consumed. His communication device activated. Siravan's image appeared, her carapace cracked from recent battle damage. Chairman, we've lost the Draxian home system. The Empire has fallen. Kalthos closed his eyes. The Draxians had been one of the Council's founding species. What about the survivors? Scattered refugee fleets. No central command remains. The same is happening everywhere. Species are abandoning the defense to save their own. We're losing this war, Chairman. Not slowly. We're losing it fast. We need new strategies. New weapons. Kalthos stopped. The word he didn't want to say hung in the air. Siravan said it for him. We need the humans. No, Kalthos said immediately. We banished them for good reason. We banished them because we feared them, Siravan corrected. We feared their aggression, their unpredictability, their rapid expansion. And now we face an enemy that embodies all those traits but with none of humanity's restraint. Chairman, we made a mistake. Even if I agreed, they'd never help us. We locked them away. We left them to rot in their own system. Siravan's damaged mandibles clicked. Then we beg. We get on our knees, we admit we were wrong, and we beg. Because if we don't, we all die. Every species. Every world. The Voidborn don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. They consume and they move on. Kalthos stared at the star charts for a long moment. Red dominated the display now. Gather the remaining council members. I'll call for a vote. The vote took place in an emptier chamber than ever before. Only 170 species remained represented. Some were present only by hologram, their representatives unable to leave besieged homeworlds. Kalthos presented the proposal. We ask the humans for help. We dissolve the banishment order. We invite them back into galactic space. What if they refuse? Someone asked. Then we face extinction with the knowledge that we were too proud to try, Kalthos replied. The vote was unanimous. Everyone who remained understood that pride was a luxury they could no longer afford. Kalthos personally led the delegation to the Sol barrier. 3 ships carrying representatives of the surviving species. They approached the shimmering wall that had contained humanity for 5 decades and broadcast on all frequencies. Humans of Earth, this is Council Chairman Kalthos. I come to you in humility and desperation. The galaxy faces extinction from an enemy called the Voidborn. We are losing. We need help. We need your help. They broadcast for 3 days straight. No response came. The ship sat at the barrier, transmitting the same message over and over. Kalthos began to fear they were too late, that humanity had either perished in isolation or had learned to ignore the galaxy that had abandoned them. Then, on the 4th day, space rippled. A probe emerged from the barrier, small and sleek, constructed with technology Kalthos didn't recognize. It transmitted a simple message in perfect galactic common. Your message has been received. Earth is considering your request. Wait there. The probe disappeared back through the barrier, leaving the delegation in tense silence. Inside Sol System, the message triggered immediate action. Prime Minister Kyungsoo convened Earth's parliament. The debate that followed would determine not just humanity's response, but the fate of the galaxy itself. Hyejin presented the intelligence data. Images of destroyed worlds, of fleeing refugee ships, of the Voidborn's relentless advance. The parliament sat in stunned silence. Then the arguments began. Some wanted to leave the council to its fate. They deserved it, after all. Others argued for immediate intervention. People were dying. How could humanity stand by? We're not responsible for the galaxy, one representative said. They locked us away. Let them solve their own problems. But if the Voidborn consume the galaxy, we're next, another countered. The barrier won't protect us forever. This is our fight too, whether we like it or not. Kyungsoo let them argue for hours. Finally, she called for order. I propose we help them, but on our terms. The council dissolves. Species govern themselves freely. Humans have unrestricted access to all galactic space, and they publicly acknowledge their mistake in banishing us. We don't do this as their servants. We do this as their equals, or we don't do it at all. The vote was called. This time it wasn't split. The parliament voted to help, with the conditions Kyungsoo outlined. Outside the Sol barrier, Kalthos waited with fading hope. Then space rippled again. This time a human ship emerged, It was sleek and advanced, clearly built with technology that hadn't existed 50 years ago. A human voice came through. Chairman Kalthos, humanity has heard your plea. We have conditions. The human ship that emerged from the barrier was unlike anything Kalthos had seen before. Its hull was smooth and dark, almost liquid in appearance. No visible weapons, no obvious engines, yet it moved with precision that suggested incredible power, held in reserve. The ship's name, translated into Galactic Common, was Harbinger. Captain Minji stood on the bridge, looking at the alien delegation's ships through her viewport. She was 40 years old, born just after the exile began. She'd never seen an alien in person, only in recordings. Now here she was, humanity's first official contact with the galaxy in half a century. Open a channel, she ordered. Kalthos appeared on her screen. He looked desperate, his crystalline skin barely glowing. Captain, thank you for responding. I am Chairman Kalthos of the Galactic Council. We know what you need, Minji interrupted. I'm here to deliver Earth's terms. Listen carefully because this offer won't be repeated. Kalthos stiffened but nodded. He had no room to negotiate. Minji read from a prepared statement. First, the Galactic Council will be dissolved immediately. It has proven itself incapable of effective governance or defense. Second, all species will govern themselves freely without oversight or interference. Third, humanity will have unrestricted access to all galactic space forever. Fourth, you will publicly acknowledge that the exile was wrong and issue a formal apology. And if we refuse these terms? Kalthos asked quietly. Minji's expression didn't change. Then we seal the barrier from our side and wish you luck against the Voidborn. Choose quickly, Chairman. I understand time is not on your side. On Earth, the debate continued even after the terms were transmitted. In the Parliament building in Geneva, Dong Hyun stood to speak. He was a representative from Mars, 60 years old, and he'd been a soldier during the original exile. I understand the moral arguments for helping, he said, his voice carrying across the chamber. But let's be clear about what we're being asked to do. We're being asked to risk our lives, our ships, our people for civilizations that threw us away like garbage. The galaxy voted unanimously to lock us up. Not a single species stood with us. Now they want us to die for them? Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Many representatives nodded, but Minji's father, an old admiral named Sang-woo, stood in opposition. Representative Dong Hyun speaks from pain, and I understand it. I was there too. I remember the shame of retreat. But consider this. If we refuse to help and the galaxy falls, the Voidborn won't stop at the barrier. They'll study it, adapt to it, and eventually break through. Then humanity faces them alone. But if we help now, we face them with whatever forces the galaxy can still muster. So we help them to help ourselves? Dong Hyun challenged. We help them because it's the strategic choice, and Sang-woo replied. And yes, because it's the right thing to do. My daughter is out there right now, about to lead our forces into hell. She's willing to die for strangers. The least we can do is support that courage. The chamber fell silent. Then Kyung-soo stood. Let's vote. All in favor of accepting the mission under the stated terms? The vote was closer than before, but it passed. Humanity would go to war. Back at the barrier, Kalthos listened to humanity's terms with a sinking feeling. Dissolve the council? It had existed for 10,000 years. But what choice did he have? The council was already fractured, barely functioning. And if the price of survival was admitting they'd been wrong about humanity, so be it. I accept, he said. All terms. The council will be dissolved. You'll have your apology. But please, Captain Minji, we need help immediately. The Voidborn are moving on the core systems. Billions will die if we delay, Minji nodded. Understood. I'm transmitting coordinates for a rendezvous point. Gather whatever military forces you have left. We'll meet you there in 3 days. 3 days? Captain, we're 2 weeks from the core systems, even at maximum speed. Minji smiled slightly. Then you'd better start moving now. We'll be waiting. The channel closed. Kalthos turned to his delegation, bewildered. How can they reach the core systems in 3 days? It's not possible. One of his aides checked the data. Chairman, their ship just accelerated. Speed is... This can't be right. They're moving at 0.9 light speed and still accelerating. That's impossible without relativistic effects tearing the ship apart. Clearly the humans have learned things we haven't, Kalthos said quietly. Let's hope it's enough. Inside Sol System, the mobilization began. Admiral Ji-won stood in fleet command, watching as hundreds of ships powered up. The fleet had been ready for years, waiting for this moment. Every crew member had trained for war they'd never expected to fight. "Admiral, all ships report ready," her tactical officer reported. Ji-won nodded. "Transmit the jump coordinates. We go through the barrier in phases. Scout ships first, then the main fleet. Commander Taeyang's tactical group will remain behind to defend Seoul if this is a trap." Taeyang's voice came through. "Understood, Admiral. Though I suspect you're taking all the glory for yourself." "Someone has to stay behind and look after the children," Ji-won replied with a slight smile. "Keep our home safe, old friend. Always have. Go show them what we've become." The first ships approached the barrier. For 50 years it had been an impenetrable wall, but Daeun's team had finally cracked the technology. The barrier didn't need to come down. They just needed to know how to pass through it. The scout ships engaged their quantum drives and phased through the barrier like ghosts passing through a wall. One by one, they emerged on the other side, into open galactic space. For the crews who'd never seen it, the sight was overwhelming. The stars, unobscured by the barrier's shimmer, stretched in every direction. Young pilot Jae-hyun sat in his cockpit, staring at the view. "So this is what we've been missing." His wing commander, a woman named Soo-jin, replied over the squad channel. "Beautiful, isn't it? Try not to die out here. It would be a waste." "No promises," Jae-hyun said, "but I'll try my best." The main fleet followed. Ship after ship emerged from the barrier, forming up in formations that would have been impossible for the old Council fleets. Quantum-entangled communications meant every ship was in perfect contact with every other ship. No lag, no delay. They moved like a single organism. Minji watched her fleet assemble and felt a surge of pride. This was humanity's answer to exile. This was what they'd built in the dark. "All ships, this is Captain Minji. Set course for the rendezvous coordinates. Maximum speed. The galaxy is watching. Let's show them what they missed." The fleet jumped to faster than light speed, using technology that made the old warp drives look primitive. They would reach the core systems not in 3 days, but in 2. When Kalthos's delegation arrived at the rendezvous point 4 days later, they found the human fleet already waiting. 300 ships hung in formation, their dark hulls barely visible against space itself. The design was predatory, purposeful, nothing like the elegant but impractical vessels the Council favored. More shocking, though, was the defensive perimeter. Hundreds of automated drones patrolled the area. Sensor buoys monitored every approach. The humans had set up a complete defensive network in the time it had taken the Council ships to arrive. "They've been here for days," Siravan observed, her mandibles clicking in amazement. "How fast do their ships travel?" "Fast enough," Kalthos said. He opened a channel. "Captain Minji, this is Chairman Kalthos. The remaining Council forces are 3 hours behind us. We have perhaps 600 ships total." "Understood," Minji replied. "We'll wait for them. In the meantime, I'm transmitting our tactical doctrine. Study it. We'll be fighting together, so your forces need to understand how we operate." What the Council received shocked them. Human tactics bore no resemblance to traditional galactic warfare. Instead of grand fleet formations, humans used small, fast strike groups. Instead of standing and trading fire, they advocated hit-and-run attacks. Instead of predictable maneuvers, they employed deception, feints, and misdirection. Siravan studied the documents with growing respect. This is guerrilla warfare adapted for space combat. It's brilliant. It's also completely against every principle we've ever followed. "Then it's time to learn new principles," Kalthos said. "Contact our fleet. Tell them to study these tactics. We follow the human lead now." When the remaining Council forces arrived, the combined fleet numbered just under 1,000 ships. It was a fraction of what the Council had fielded in its prime. But as they formed up and prepared to jump to the front lines, Kalthos felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. The first battle came sooner than expected. The combined fleet had barely jumped into the contested zone when sensors detected voidborne signatures. 300 enemy vessels advancing on a Draxian refugee convoy. "All human ships combat formation Delta," Minji ordered. "Council forces hold position and observe. We'll show you how this works." The human fleet split into 30 groups of 10 ships each. Instead of charging straight at the voidborne formation, they scattered in what looked like random directions. The voidborne, programmed to counter standard tactics, adjusted to pursue the largest groups. That was their first mistake. Jae-hyun's squadron, designated Hunter 7, swung wide around the Voidborn flank. His ship's stealth systems, far beyond anything the Council had developed, made them nearly invisible. Hunter 7 weapons hot. Pick your targets. They struck from behind, quantum torpedoes tearing through Voidborn shields before the machines could adapt. By the time the enemy ship started to rotate toward them, Hunter 7 was already gone, jumping to a new position. This pattern repeated across the battlefield. Human ships appeared, struck hard, and vanished before the Voidborn could respond. It was like watching wolves hunt, coordinated and merciless. But the Voidborn were learning. After the fifth wave of attacks, they began adapting. Their shields started modulating frequencies faster. Their formation tightened to prevent flanking attacks. "They're catching on," Jae-hyun reported to Minji. "Expected," Minji replied calmly. "Switch to Tactics Package Sigma. Let's see them adapt to this." What followed would later be studied in military academies across the rebuilt galaxy. The human ships began transmitting false sensor signatures, making it appear as if hundreds more ships were present. The Voidborn, unable to distinguish real from fake, split their fire ineffectively. Meanwhile, human ships deployed clouds of nanomachine swarms that attached to Voidborn hulls and began disassembling them at the molecular level. The battle lasted 40 minutes. When it ended, all 300 Voidborn ships were destroyed or disabled. The human fleet had lost 2 ships. Both crews evacuated successfully before the vessels were destroyed. Watching from the Council command ship, Kalthos and Siravan sat in stunned silence. "They didn't just win," Siravan finally said. "They made it look easy." "Because they fight like we never could," Kalthos replied. "No honor, no tradition, no predictable patterns, just pure efficiency." Over the next month, the pattern repeated. Human forces, often outnumbered, consistently defeated Voidborn groups through superior tactics and technology. They taught Council forces their methods, and slowly, the combined fleet began to push back. But the real war was just beginning. Deep in Voidborn-controlled space, Daeun worked from a mobile laboratory ship, studying captured Voidborn technology. She'd been analyzing their code, their structure, their communication protocols. Bo-Ram assisted her, as always, working through complex calculations. "Doctor, look at this pattern," Bo-Ram said, highlighting a section of Voidborn code. "These signals don't control individual ships. They're too complex, too encompassing." Daeun's eyes widened as she understood. "Because they're not meant for individual ships. Bo-Ram, I think we found it. The Voidborn have a central nexus, a command hub controlling all units." She immediately contacted Admiral Jiwon. "Admiral, we need to talk. I've found their weakness." On Jiwon's flagship, now deep in enemy territory, the senior staff assembled. Daeun's hologram appeared before them, presenting her findings. "The Voidborn aren't truly distributed intelligence," she explained. "They have a central nexus somewhere, probably in deep space beyond the galactic rim. Every unit receives updates and coordination from this nexus. If we destroy it, the entire Voidborn network should collapse." "How do we find it?" Minji asked. "We followed the signal back," Daeun said. "It's faint, but it's there. I can equip our ships with specialized sensors. We track the signal to its source, and then," Kalthos asked, listening from his ship. "And then we go there and destroy it," Jiwon said simply. "That would require penetrating deep into Voidborn space," Siravan observed. "The concentration of enemy forces there would be overwhelming." "Which is why we don't take the whole fleet," Jiwon replied. "We take a strike force. Fast ships, best crews. We hit the nexus and get out before they can respond." "A suicide mission," Kalthos said flatly. "A necessary mission," Jiwon corrected. "Captain Minji, assemble your strike force. Choose volunteers only. No one ordered into this." When the call went out, every single human ship volunteered. Jiwon had to turn most of them away. The final strike force numbered 50 ships, carrying the best pilots and crews humanity had. Jae-hyun stood with his squadron in the briefing room. Commander Sujin addressed them. "We jump in 3 hours. The Council fleet will create a diversion, drawing Voidborn forces away from our approach vector. We'll have maybe 30 minutes to find and destroy the Nexus before they realize what's happening and converge on us." "What are our survival odds?" someone asked. "Honestly, maybe 30%, Sujin replied. "But if we succeed, we save the galaxy. I'd say that's worth the risk." Jae-hyun nodded along with the others. He was 23 years old, had never known life outside Sol System until a month ago. and was about to lead a mission that would determine the fate of trillions. He felt strangely calm about it. The strike force jumped into dark space 6 hours later. The area was beyond all mapped stars, a void where only the Voidborn dwelt. Sensors immediately detected thousands of enemy signatures, but the machines weren't moving. They floated dormant, waiting for activation from the Nexus. "There," Dayun said from her position aboard Minji's ship. "I'm reading a massive energy signature. Coordinates transmitting now." The strike force moved silently through the sleeping armada. It was terrifying. All those dead ships that could activate at any moment. Jae-hyun found himself holding his breath. Then they saw it. The Nexus was enormous, a structure the size of a small moon, covered in geometric patterns that pulsed with energy. It was beautiful and horrifying in equal measure. "All ships attack pattern Omega," Minji ordered. "Everything we have. We don't get a second chance at this." 50 ships unleashed weapons that represented 50 years of human innovation. Quantum torpedoes, antimatter missiles, particle beams, and weapons that bent space itself. The Nexus's shields flared but held. "It's too strong," someone reported. "We're not getting through." Jae-hyun looked at his squadron. "Hunter 7, follow me. We're going in." "Negative, Hunter 7, Minji said. "That's a suicide run." "Then it's a good thing I volunteered," Jae-hyun replied. "Sujin, you're in command. Don't waste this." Before anyone could stop him, Jae-hyun's squadron accelerated toward the Nexus. They wove through incoming defensive fire, ships exploding around them. Of the 10 ships that began the run, only 3 made it close to the structure. Jae-hyun armed his ship's antimatter core and set it to overload. Hunter 7273 set cores to overload. "We blow a hole, the others can finish it." "Copy that, lead," came the replies. The 3 ships crashed into the Nexus at near light speed, antimatter cores detonating in synchronized explosions. The combined blast ripped through the shields, exposing the Nexus's core. "Now," Minji shouted. "Everything at that breach." The remaining 47 ships focused all fire on the exposed core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Nexus began to crack, energy bleeding from the fractures. The structure shuddered, pulsed once, and exploded in a flash of light that lit up the dark space. The dormant Voidborn ships around them went completely dark. No power, no movement, just dead metal floating in space. "It worked," someone whispered over the comm. Throughout the galaxy, Voidborn forces went still mid-battle. Ships stopped moving. Weapons went silent. The war that had threatened to consume everything ended in an instant, but the cost was heavy. Of the 50 ships in the strike force, only 32 made it back. Jae-hyun and his squadron were gone, along with hundreds of other brave souls who'd made the final push possible. When Minji's battered fleet returned to the rendezvous point, they found the combined forces waiting. As news of the victory spread, a cheer went up across every ship, human and alien alike. Kalthos contacted Minji directly. "Captain, on behalf of what remains of the Council, I thank you. Your sacrifice, your courage, it saved us all." "It wasn't just us," Minji replied, looking at the casualty reports. "We lost good people today. Heroes who'll never see their homes again." "They'll be remembered," Kalthos promised. "I swear it. And so will humanity's return. You came back not as conquerors, but as saviors. We were wrong about you. About all of it." 3 days later, a formal ceremony was held in orbit around the Council homeworld. Kalthos stood before a gathering of species representatives and made a public statement that was broadcast across the galaxy. 50 years ago, this council made a grave error. We judged humanity by our fears rather than their actions. We exiled them, locked them away, and told ourselves it was for the greater good. We were wrong. Today I formally apologize to humanity on behalf of all council species. And today I announce the dissolution of the Galactic Council. It served its purpose, but that time has passed. In its place, we will form a federation of free species where all civilizations govern themselves as equals. On Earth, in the Parliament building, the broadcast played on every screen. Kyungsoo watched alongside her fellow leaders. When it ended, someone started clapping. The applause spread until the entire chamber was on its feet. "We did it," Youngmi said quietly. "We survived and we came back stronger." "No," Kyungsoo corrected with a smile. "We came back better." 5 years later, the galaxy had healed. The Voidborn threat was contained. Their remaining forces hunted down and dismantled. Trade routes reopened. Colonies were rebuilt. And humanity, once exiled, now stood as equals among the stars. In a training facility on Mars, an older commander, Tae Yang, supervised a class of mixed-species pilots. Humans, Draxians, former council species, all learning together, the war had taught them that survival required cooperation. He watched a human pilot named Bo Young spar in simulations against a Draxian named Kreltos. They moved with the coordinated precision that had become humanity's trademark, but now other species were learning it too. Good, Tae Yang said, again. In orbit above Earth, a memorial station had been constructed. It held the names of every being, human and alien, who died in the war against the Voidborn. Jae-hyun's name was there, along with thousands of others. Minji visited sometimes, looking at the memorial wall. She was a captain still, but her war was over. Now she helped train the next generation. As she stood there, Kalthos approached. The chairman, no longer needing the title, came to Earth often now. They were so young, he said, looking at the names. They were brave, Minji replied. They saw what needed doing and they did it. Because that's what humans do, Kalthos said. You face impossible odds and you fight anyway. We should have learned that 50 years ago. Maybe, Minji said. Or maybe we all needed those 50 years. We needed time to become who we are. You needed time to learn humility. And the galaxy needed time to fall apart so it could be rebuilt better. Kalthos considered this a costly lesson. The best lessons usually are. They stood together in silence, two beings from different worlds, looking at the names of heroes who'd brought those worlds together. Outside the viewport, Earth hung in space, blue and beautiful. Beyond it, the stars shone bright and welcoming. The galaxy had banished humanity once. Now it would never make that mistake again.